This is episode number 37 of the Emotional Freedom Podcast. Now, in yesterday's episode, I talked about this book, which is called His Needs, Her Needs. And this was the book that taught me so much when I first got married about how to ensure that my marriage is affair-proof. And this is a great book because, like I said yesterday, I got married quite young and I was pretty naive. But this book was really helpful in teaching me about the love bank and how to make a marriage works. Yeah. So, okay, if you have not watched that episode, please go back to episode number 36 when I talk more about this book. Now, in today's episode 37, I want to jump into the top 10 most important emotional needs which are taught in this book. So stay tuned. Hey, welcome back to the Emotional Freedom Podcast. I'm Luke Bong, your host, accredited NLP trainer and a clinical hypnotherapist. Now, a lot of people, they focus a lot on the wedding day. They will go to great lengths to plan the wedding day, to get the perfect dress, to get the perfect, catering, to have the memory that lasts a lifetime, so to speak. But I think not enough attention is put into the marriage, which happens to be the longer game, all right? It is the long game. So to me, I think while the wedding is something that is very important, and that's why a lot of people put a lot of emphasis to it, but I think the most important thing, or what is even more important, would be the marriage, because that actually determines how long it goes, as well as whether or not you'll find fulfillment in the relationship. Now, I am a pretty old-fashioned guy, so for me, a marriage is one whereby you want to stay on with the same partner. So stay on with your spouse until the end of, I won't say end of time, all right? More like end of the journey, end of the road, in terms of when one of you starts to say bye-bye in terms of end of life. So that's the old-fashioned me. Now, I want to share with you in today's episode, what are the top 10 most important emotional needs that the married couple, they are looking for from one another. And these are the 10 things that helped me a lot, so I thought of sharing them with you here. So the first one, according to the author, Willard F. Harley Jr., is that affection. Now, affection is what affection means is that the feeling of being loved, as well as tenderness, or also like the tone of your voice, etc. Now, simple things like holding hands, cuddling, staying close together, as well as just going out, saying little words like "I love you," "How's your day today?" Now, all those things are contributing towards a marriage, and that is filled with love. So, affection is point number one, which is something that you want to continuously do. See, sometimes when marriages they go through a period of time, it is very easy for the married couple, either husband or the wife, to actually take the other person for granted. I was recently told that if you take things for granted, those things that were granted would be eventually taken away from you. And I thought that is like beautiful. I don't know who said that, but that really hit home the point. So one of the best ways how you don't take your partner for granted is by continuously focusing on affection. It's like, remember the days when you were still in courtship and how you just want to hold your partner's hand? Don't stop, right? Don't stop. Continue doing it even in marriage, because that's even more important. So that's number one, affection. Now, number two, and this is something that is closely related to affection, and because it's so closely related to affection, sometimes it can be also neglected, and that is sexual fulfillment. Now, sexual fulfillment is something that is different from just an affection, because affection, you can show affection to just about anyone. A family member, a close friend, those are affection. But between the spouse, between the husband and the wife, between that married couple, sexual fulfillment is something that is very, very important. And the moment it is not, let's say, a partner's sexual needs is not met by the other partner, it becomes very easy for that person to feel frustration, as well as the urge or the temptation to find that fulfillment, to meet that need elsewhere. And that is where very often how affairs come about. So this is something that you and your partner need to discuss about as to what will you consider as being fulfilled sexually. So that is something that is crucial in a married couple. Now, I understand that there could be different issues in marriages. Sometimes it could be due to health issue. Sometimes it could be due to psychological issue. But the key is this. This is a very, very important part of the emotional needs of a marriage, and something for you to seriously look into. And if anyone in a married couple is experiencing frustration in terms of sexual fulfillment, I highly recommend that you go and seek some therapy, because there are therapists who specialize in this area of how to help the married couple to find more sexual fulfillment in their marriage. Okay, so that is the second one. Now, the third one is conversation. Now, conversation is so important because it's the way how two people can connect with each other at an emotional level. Now, I remember when I first got to know my wife, and at that time, I wasn't really interested in her yet. She was actually my colleague, yeah. But it took just that one afternoon for me to more or less I fell head over heels with her, and it was having a conversation with her. I mean, when I had conversation with her, I felt so appreciated. I felt like, this person can really understand me. I felt connected with her having that conversation. And we have been having conversations every day ever since. And I find that having this conversation, it's so crucial because it is one of the fastest way and the most powerful way for the married couple to actually stay connected and stay in love. So having conversations is very, very important. But when we talk about conversation, sometimes, we need to also think about what makes a good conversation. Because sometimes, have you ever heard people jokingly say that they don't talk? The only time they talk is they scream at each other. All right. So I think that will probably not be the right type of conversation that the authors are thinking of. So conversation comes in number 3. Number 4, recreational companionship. Now, two people come together, and in yesterday's episode, I talked about how opposites attract. So needless to say, the husband and the wife may probably have very different idea of what is recreation to them. But it is very important that even though you may not be, very keen on what your partner is doing, it is also very important that you are able to show support and understanding towards what this person does. I'll give you an example. I have a friend who is actually, he plays in a band. He's a guitarist. And every now and then, he just likes to hang out with the band members and just do jamming. And occasionally, they may be called upon to do performance. Now, my friend's wife, is not exactly a musically inclined person. So she doesn't quite enjoy that. If you ask her to play in a band, definitely it's a no-no. But what made that marriages work is that my friend's wife was very supportive. So she would allow her husband, my friend, to go and practice in the band and to even go to do performance. And she would be there to support as well. And I think that contributed to why their marriage worked so well. And it's because the husband and the wife, they support each other in their recreational needs. Now, sometimes supporting in the recreational needs does not necessarily mean to spend time together doing it. Sometimes it's just to give freedom to your partner to be able to do it without feeling as if being made to feel guilty that I'm enjoying myself, whereas my partner is at home. And I think that is not a very healthy thing to do. So point number 4, recreational companionship. Now, point number 5 is honesty and openness. And I think this is like the cornerstone for all relationships. And that is, how honest are we to talk about issues? How open are we to talk about issues that are bothering us? And for marriages that work, this is so important because one of the things about being in a marriage, remember the marriage vows of saying in sickness and in health, Okay, so it all means that between the married couple, they ought to be open and honest in both the good and the bad. And when they are able to open up like that, it shows that they have so much of trust in their partner. And I think that is what a marriage relationship should be. So honesty and openness, that is crucial. Okay, number 6. Now, point number 6 has got to do with an attractive spouse. Now, human beings, we are attracted to things that look good. I'm not talking about you have to constantly be like with six-pack abs or things like that, because I think a lot of those are just being very superficial. But what is necessary is to be, keep ourselves hygienic, clean, as well as good looking to our spouse. And I think that is a responsibility that we have towards making our spouse continuously feel in love with us. And that's very important because, I've seen people whom before they got married or before they have a relationship, they look good. They put attention to looking good, going to the gym, exercising, just like taking care of their skin and everything. But you know what? The moment they are married, everything goes into the drain. They start to eat anything and everything, and they start to put on so much weight. And I think this is something like, before the purchase is made, all right, you put extra effort into ensuring the sale is closed. But the moment the sale is closed in marriage, suddenly it's like, okay, you are stuck with me for life, so nobody cares anymore. And I think that is pretty irresponsible. So, to make a marriage work, according to the author, number 6 is an attractive spouse. Okay, let's move on to number 7. Number 7 has got to do with financial support. Now, recently, I was very shocked by a statistic that was released in Malaysia, where the number 1 reason why marriages break down is not about, affair. It's not about having a third party in the marriage, but it has got to do with financial strain, where the couples are not able to see eye to eye where finances are concerned. They are not able to do financial planning together, and they have very different ideas as to how to spend their money. And that creates a big pressure and a big pain point in relationships. So, especially nowadays, we are living in a society whereby it's not just the man who goes out and work and the woman stays at home. No, those are like so long ago already. Nowadays, it's a case of both the man and the woman of the house will both be out working, earning an income and all that. So it becomes important that both parties actually discuss together how they are going to take care of the financial part of their relationship so that it doesn't end up to become a pressure point in that relationship. So financial support, that is very, very important. Okay, number 8 is domestic support. Now, by domestic support, what it means is that do you share in the household work? Now, long time ago, when I was still a kid, basically my dad would go out to work, and when he comes home, he would just not take care of the household chores and everything. Except for those like things break down, you have to climb up and repair. Those are the heavy work which are traditionally reserved to the men. But like I said earlier, society has changed. Both the husband and the wife, they are both out there working, and they are working equally hard. So when they come back home, they are both also equally tired. So it becomes important that the household chores, those things that are necessary to keep the house clean, livable, those are being actually shared by both parties so that you don't overwork one of the spouse. And that also is a show of real love, whereby I love you enough to take care of the rubbish. I love you enough to take care of the dishes. I love you enough to fold all the clothes. Now, those are real signs of, practical I love you, I think. All right, so that is domestic support. Now, number 9. Number 9 has got to do with family commitment. Now, this is especially when the married couple decides to have a child, and both of them need to play the role of the mother and the father. And this is something that is important because if a parent becomes an absent parent, then the stress of trying to play both roles, it is going to be overbearing. And that is also going to affect a marriage as well. So the wife will want to expect the husband to be a good father, and the husband will also expect that the wife will be a good mother. And I think when both are played, played in earnest as well as played responsibly, not only the marriage will work, but the child will also be able to grow in a healthy relationship. So this is something that we need to pay attention to as well in a marriage. And finally, number 10. This is something that is so important to both sides, and that is admiration. I remember when before marriage, how we admire our partner, how we admire our lover, and how in our eyes, our lover is like, wow, amazing. What they do is just so good, although in reality it's just so maybe. But it felt as if it was like the best in the world, right? And that is also one of the reasons why couples fall in love with each other, and that is because of this admiration. And when people get too familiar with each other, the saying, familiarity breeds contempt. And that is where the danger of admiration being forgotten. You see, for a husband, the husband wants the wife to admire him, to admire the sacrifices that he has made, the hard work that he has put in to make the marriage work. And for the wife, it is also important for her that the husband admire her for the things that she does, for her feminism, for her feminine beauty, as well as for how she actually contributes to the family. So that is so important, the admiration part. Never ever allow admiration to disappear from your relationship. So these are the 10 most important emotional needs that are found in this book of His Needs, Her Needs. So once again, I highly recommend this book for you to read it. And if you are married, read it. If you are planning to get married, read it too. If you are not ever going to plan to get married, you can also read it as well. All right, so this book is highly recommended. Yeah, so these are the 10 most important emotional needs. And as you listen to it, all right, think about where you need to work on, where you need to improve on. These are 10 things that will really add the sizzle in your marriage life. All right, so I hope you have enjoyed today's episode. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you tomorrow.